This is Business Week, coming to you from our studios here in Lagos, the nation's commercial capital. I am Frank Omalape. Here's what's coming up in a moment. The federal government commences the restructuring of the 11 electricity distribution companies and the sale of 4 discos that have been taken over by banks and the Asset Management Corporation of Nigeria. Plus, the National Council on Privatization calls for a merger between the Bank of Agriculture and the Central Bank of Nigeria's NISO Microfinance Limited in a bid to enhance Nigeria's food security. Outside Nigeria, Germany's private sector unexpectedly returned to growth in April, driven by a solid rise in activity in the country's service sector. This and many more are what to expect on the show today. I am Frank Omalape. This is Business Week. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Let's begin with some of the stories that made headline in the week. The federal government is set to launch about 2,700 CNG-powered buses and tricycles before May 29, when President Bola Tinubu turns 1 year in office. Special advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Mr. Bayo Onanuga, made this known in a statement to newsmen in the week. Mr. Onanuga added that 100 conversion workshops and 60 refueling sites will be spread across 18 states before the end of 2024 to deliver compressed natural gas for mass transit. Mr. Onanuga assures that all is now ready for the delivery of the first set of deployment and launch of the CNG initiative ahead of the first anniversary of the Tinubu administration on May 29. And in a bid to enhance Nigeria's food security in the country, the National Council on Privatization has called for a merger between the Bank of Agriculture and the Central Bank of Nigeria's NISO Microfinance Limited. Vice President Senator Kashim Shettima made this known while addressing the second meeting of the NPC in 2024 at the State House in Abuja. He highlighted the necessity of repositioning BOA to advance Nigeria's food security objectives and advocate for prompt resolution. The Vice President added that this measure will catalyze the transformation of the economy. Elsewhere in the week, federal government has commenced the restructuring of the 11 electricity distribution companies and the sale of 4 discos that have been taken over by banks and the Asset Management Corporation in the country. Minister of Power, Mr. Adebayo Adelabu, disclosed this while speaking during the visit of the Senate Committee on Power to the Minister of Power and the Transmission Company of Nigeria in Abuja. According to the Minister of Power, distribution companies are currently being unbundled along state lines due to their large sizes, which often result in inefficiency and ineffectiveness, stating that the privatization of the firms would not be reversed, but stressed that the discos would be broken into more efficient structures along state lines to be able to deliver on their mandates. Away from the Minister of Works and Housing, Mr. Dave Umahi has sent a strong warning to contractors handling the 200 kilometers Abuja-Lokoja Benin Road to sign the new contract between the 25th and 28th of April 2024 or forget the job. The minister says if any contract is seen on site without signing any contract, he will instruct the locals to chase them out of sight. Correspondent Ademola Lawrence reports.
So we had to open the road. We appealed to the road transport workers that work will start on Monday the next week.
On the 22nd of March 2024, the federal government announced plans to complete the construction of Benin-Lokoja Road project within 6 months. But 1 month after this declaration, the Minister of Work says all contractors linked with the Abuja-Lokoja Benin 200-kilometer road must sign a new contract in the next 2 days or they should forfeit the contract. The minister said in a meeting with the contractors where he complained about what he described as the arrogance of the contractors.
But the arrogance of contractors in this country is quite very insulting. And so the position of the government is that if you are not signing the contract between today and tomorrow, you will forgo the jobs. You can go to court. We will not enter into any condition for the negotiation.
After discussions between the contractors and the minister, The contractors also complained about challenges that has hindered the commencement of the work.
The unit rate was submitted in May 23.
No, it's not your basic rate, it's my basic rate.
No, about the unit rate, for example.
Sir,
I have nothing to add because I also wanted to come up with the basic rate. Since it's not a matter to discuss, I don't want to start thinking.
And maybe later tomorrow morning, and maybe we can get the approval from them, so we can go ahead.
The contractor also has the right to go through it, review it, and maybe say some things, technical, legal things, just to make both parties be on the same page.
if you are not ready to mobilize in 3 sections.
For the minister, he's sticking to his guns. Any contractor who refuses to sign the new contract and is seen working on site will be pushed out.
If you don't sign the contract and you're still on site, I will ask the locals to beat you up. Yes, I'm on camera and I mean it.
The Abuja-Lokoja Benin Road project was awarded in 2012 but could not be completed due to lack of commitment from the contractors.
And outside Nigeria, Germany's private sector unexpectedly returned to growth in April, driven by a solid rise in activity in the country's service sector. According to S&P Global Trading or rating agency, Purchasing Managers Index rose to 50.5 this month from 47.7 in March, above the 50 mark that indicates expansion in 10 months. While the service sector index rose to 53.3 this month from 50.1 in March, the highest in 10 months, and above a forecast of 50.5. Analysts predict that GDP may expand by 0.2% in the second quarter, following an estimated 0.1% growth in the first quarter, and the service sector may catalyze the overall economy. Well, those were some of the biggest stories in the week. And coming up after this break, our focus is on Nigeria's food insecurity challenges and the need to deploy a holistic approach for sustainable result. That's our talking point when we return from this break. Please stay with us. Thank you, everyone. This is Business Week coming to you from our studios here in Lagos, the nation's commercial capital. Let's get into a conversation right away. Nigeria, the most populous country in Africa, faces a daunting challenge in ensuring food security for its growing population. With over 200 million people to feed, the country struggles to produce and distribute enough food to meet the demands of its citizens. According to experts, these complex and multifaceted challenges also present an opportunity for innovation and growth. But how does the country harness its agricultural opportunities to unlock a more food secure future for its people? Well, that's exactly what we're about to find out in this conversation. And I'm being joined by the project manager at the UK Agri Tech Center, Mrs. Chioma Ezeanaka. She joins us virtually now. Thank you for your time. Let's get started there, Mrs. Ezeanaka. Nigeria has a rich agricultural heritage. Yes, we know that. Yet, the food insecurity persists. In your opinion, what are some systemic issues hindering the country from realizing its full agricultural potential, and how can they be addressed holistically? Let's start from there.
Okay, so thank you again, Frank. It's good to be here on your show and to share some of my views around the things plaguing the Nigerian food security systems. But in my opinion, it's more of a silos thinking problem where each part of the food system is addressed individually, and just like every country has challenges in its different sectors, ours is not unique to us. There are several countries that have similar challenges, but what are we doing different that's not helping us see the type of results and successes that other countries are recording is silos thinking, a firefighting approach to solving these problems rather than a predictive and an adaptive approach. Because, Frank, if you know, and I'm sure everybody is very aware, that the world is moving at a very fast pace this time, and if we focus on solving the problems of the past, even if we do that successfully, we'll still be very behind. We won't be able to compete, we won't be able to have a system that works for us in the now. So everything be it as it may, those challenges, not particularly unique to just Nigeria alone. But for us, I'll say we're focusing on just fighting the problems of the past rather than predicting, and creating the future that we want. Like a popular saying, the best way to predict the future is to create it. So to say, this is what we want, and this is what we're going to do to get it, and just focus all our energies on that part where we can look back and say that we've solved all the other challenges in the process, and we're at a place where we can now start to boast of at least food security at the national level, and a good footing and a good structure and system in place to help us to continue to adapt for the future.
Talking about productive and adaptive approach, I know you're a project manager at the UK Agri-Tech Center. What innovation or innovative approaches can Nigeria adopt to improve its food security situation, learning from countries that are successful at this already?
Okay, so I'll say, again, especially because of my experience where I now work, is to adapt the model. Not particularly a technology or a system or policy, none of those siloed solutions. It's a model, and the model that the UK is applying is brilliant. It's brilliant. So just to express that in real terms, to flesh it out, the UK Agri-Tech Center sits as a nexus organization between the government and industry, right? And what it means is it can listen to the heartbeat of the industry and connect directly with different stakeholders, so manufacturers, primary producers, supply chain, food supply chain, service providers, the retail outlets, the traditional markets, the growers, packaging producers. So everyone within the food sector is in this network that's we liaise with, so we can hear their real challenges, and also relates directly as part of the organization's model with the universities and research and development institutions that do incredible work, just creating solutions, adapting technology, and even doing futuristic technologies that can help the countries or help different systems to adapt to whatever challenges they may face. And then we were interfacing with the government as well, informing them of these challenges and these technologies that exist, and how the government can develop policies that can bring these technologies to life in a way that the businesses can adapt. So it's a project-based setting where the different stakeholders in the food sector are saying to us what the challenges are, and then we're bringing in independent partners as research organizations who can tell you that you're doing something great, but based on government standards or industry standards, you need to up your game in this particular regard. Bringing that independent view, fresh thinking with fresh, brilliant minds. The university is a place where you will not lack ideas, you will not lack fresh, brilliant minds looking at problems. And then being able to then advise government on, what, this needs to change, and some policies that are currently in place would restrict what should help the country move forward. And it's that kind of marriage that, again, like I said in the first place, can do that predictive and adaptive approach to ensuring food security, first at a national level, and then support even global food security. And if I were to give an example, because this is how I actually got into the sector, when I was doing my master's in design thinking. As part of our project, we're given a real industry challenge to design something for the agri sector, actually. And there's a solution that had been paid for and given to several really good design companies to create. And none of the solutions solve the problem. But just bringing in students, fresh independent minds, and saying, this is the challenge. This is what we want you to achieve. And you're bringing people from multiple sectors. I had an experienced architect with over 20 years experience on my team. I had the mechanical experts with, great, just really brilliant minds, bringing them together and just allowing them tackle a problem. So the solution we came up with was out of the box, but it solved the problem where they were thinking that the students will validate what the experts had said, that this solution, you can't get this result. You probably have to settle for this less or this less. But we're able to come up and that's what gave me the opportunity through that project to then come into the organization to see that this is brilliant, right? You have children, you have people who are still bright and they don't yet have those restrictions that life throws at you after you face so many challenges, looking at those problems, having the experience of the professors who have seen brilliance all their lives and being able to bring it together, or not to allow them to just go on the tangent creating, but focusing that energy on real problems and saying, look, can you solve this? Can you solve this? We need this. And even creating multiple interactions between departments, a marriage between maybe the traditional agri sector, aerospace, engineering, management, bring all of them, because lots of those expertise exist on the same campus for the universities, or maybe specialties in particular research institutions. So you're solving problems and you're developing innovative solutions that look at problems holistically and create solutions that are fit for purpose, right? And you can then take this to the government and say, you know what, we need to fund this because this solves the problem and this is how it solves, it adds value not only to the sector but to the economy at large.
In essence, what you're saying is that the first step to addressing this challenge is to bring stakeholders together, to brainstorm and create a roadmap to solve this challenge, more like establishing a research institution or hub. Is that what you're saying?
No, not a research institute. So it's a model. I'm saying that we need to adapt the model, a model that has a plugin for all the stakeholders to communicate both their challenges, the resources that are available to solve the problem, to then create a solution in a way that everybody would have contributed to it and it can be adopted, because the government is involved. There's a plugin for government to receive feedback and then to push in funding where it is needed. There is a plugin for the stakeholders that are doing the actual work. So industry experts, primary food producers, processors, supply chain experts, packaging material experts, and all those other tech inputs. So we have a plugin for them to receive the information that this is what they're doing and these are the challenges they're facing. And then we have the research institutions and the universities who supply the brilliant minds that you cannot get all of that together in one particular institution to just facilitate bringing together that solution and then informing everybody that, this is the potential solution, this is what government can do. And then the universities also have that information to say, we've developed this and we can start to build on the solution for the next set of challenges or for the future.
Currently, Nigeria's food inflation is at 40.01%, and some experts have, warned that this trend is likely to persist for the rest of the quarter. So what do you suppose is driving this high inflation and what can be done to slow it down?
So there are several drivers for inflation, and a lot of it has been reactionary, especially in the Nigerian system. That's what's made it so high. Lack of trust in the system. Nobody wants to lose. So people are just responding to what they think is the best approach. I'm a producer myself in Nigeria. I have a food manufacturing business in Nigeria, and we had to think at the rate at which the exchange rate is going, and maybe prices of some inputs in the market are going up. we have to increase our prices, and we need to increase it in a way that in the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we wouldn't need to increase it again. So we took it a step further, if you get what I mean, because we had been burnt by just increasing it a little bit and then noticing that the market was too volatile, and we think it's going to cap out, and let's be at a point where we are sure that we're going to be at least profitable, even if it's with very slim margins, but not run at a loss. And I think that's what's played across several other sectors or several other elements of the supply chain, where people don't trust the system and the things that need to be put in place to stabilize the system. If things like this happen, or once the market starts to settle and people start to find that level of confidence that things are settling around this place, then the prices are going to fall again. And that's not to take away the things that I would say we can do nothing about. And my mom always say things without remedy should be without regard. So the influence of, well, they're not without remedy. There are certainly things that we can do, but not in our direct control. So climate, how can the effect of climate on maybe lower production rates and how it's influencing the kind of outputs that we're getting and all those things. There are things that we can do. And we can start by doing things that bring in trust into the system. The burden of that, a lot of that depends on the government and government policies.
Well, a few points to discuss before I let you go. Let's talk about the need to attract more investment in this space and the need to meet the demand for food globally. What should be done, to set the record straight? Also, I just want to also talk about the increasing global focus on sustainability. So talk to us about that. How can Nigeria balance the need for food security with environmental conservation and sustainable farming practices, without, breaching, the global warming code or the fight against climate change that is around the world now?
So, thankfully, the world is becoming a lot more aware on the effect of our industrial practices on our environment and how it really is everybody's concern. And one of the biggest contributors to global warming and some of this environmental degradation and use of scarce resources is agriculture. And it's a no-brainer, right? Because there's one thing everybody must do, and that's eat. Everybody must eat. So having a good understanding of how our food production, consumption patterns are influencing the environment is critical. And not just environment now, because the environment does not exist independent of the social environment as well. The physical environment doesn't exist independent of the social. So when a lot of countries look at the agricultural practices, they're looking at it from a circular perspective, environmental impact, social impact, as well as profit. So it's the triple pillars of sustainability. And yes, we need to focus on environment, but if we are not touching on all three at the same time, we most likely will not come up with a solution that is sustainable. It will create pressure in another aspect that will force the system to crumble.
What a good place to leave the conversation. Thank you for your time. A project manager, UK Agri-Tech Center, Mrs. Chioma Izanaka. Thank you for your time on the program.
Pleasure to be here, Frank.
All right, that's of course interesting conversation there. Let's I'll wrap up the show now, but just before I let you go, let's tell you that the rising food inflation, amid rising food inflation in Nigeria, prices of staple food are dropping in major market, falling by 20 to 30% within 2 months. This is coming barely 2 weeks after the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission said it would do all it could within the regulatory framework to protect consumers from exploitation. This is a relief for Nigerian households who spent about 88,000 for a 50-kilogram bag of rice in February 2024. The report shows a 50 kg bag of rice now costs between 50,000 and 65,000 naira in major markets around Lagos and across major cities of the Federation. And that's our show this week. Many thanks for watching. We'll see you again next week. I am Frank Malape. Bye-bye for now.
For an exclusive 3 times